Hi, Katie. Welcome to 11 Questions.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am really a night owl, but I'm trying really hard to be a regular person who goes to bed at exactly the same time every night and gets up exactly the same time every morning, because that's what I tell everybody to do. Usually I'm better in the evenings.
And did you always want to be a doctor?
I didn't actually. When I was in secondary school, I loved languages. And so I was thinking I would end up doing something speaking French. But then I discovered human biology as part of my biology A-level course and loved it, absolutely loved it. And my mum said to me, have you ever thought of being a doctor? And so she set me on the path. And once I thought about it, I thought, well, yeah, that's definitely what I want to do. And I've never regretted it for a minute.
If you couldn't be a doctor, what else would you be?
There was some talk then of me going to ballet school. I was a bit of a dancer. I loved my ballet. Now, if I couldn't be a doctor, then I would probably just hang up my stethoscope and be a full-time grandmother. It's a new job I've had over the last year.
And how long have you been working in the neuroscience field now?
I started as a GP being interested in not just migraine and headaches, but also interested in chronic pain generally. I'd originally been very interested in bereavement and emotions, and then I got involved in sort of seeing patients with more mental health. So that must be now a good 10 or 15 years.
So, was it your own migraines that made you interested in this, or was there another reason too?
It was my own migraine attacks originally, because it took me a little while as a doctor to even diagnose myself. I think we're very bad at looking at our own health sometimes. So on my journey of finding out about information about migraine took me to the National Migraine Centre as well as various other routes. And I'm a great reader and I love to kind of absorb information about things. So I started searching for information to help myself. And then, of course, went on a couple of courses at the National Migraine Centre ran for GPs and got very interested in helping my patients. And then when I decided to slightly change my career, I decided to go and work with the National Migraine Centre because it seemed to be doing such a worthwhile job.
What are some myths or misconceptions about migraine that you have heard?
There are so many, aren't there? There are so many. First of all, people use the term migraine as a sort of throwaway comment. Oh, you're going to give me a migraine. And I think we need to try and change that. And I try very hard. I sometimes slip up, but I try really hard to say migraine attacks, because I think we should be thinking about migraine as a condition that leads to debilitating attacks. The next myth is that it's just a really bad headache, isn't it? And of course, it is more than a headache. It's headache, brain fog, dizziness, nausea, vomiting. And many, many people get sensitive to light, sound, movement, smells, sometimes even touch. So people with very bad chronic migraine can't do things like brush their hair or tie their hair back because it really hurts on their scalp. I think the myth that it's just a bad headache is a very common one, and we're trying to change that by raising awareness as much as possible. It's a big myth that if you have a headache that's not bad, it can't be migraine, because migraine's really, really bad. And it is what we call a spectrum disorder. So some people with migraine don't have them very often and actually don't have terribly bad attacks. They get headaches or dizziness or nausea or even sometimes tummy pain, especially kids, but they get it and it goes away relatively straightforwardly, and they take some painkillers, lie down, whatever. Even those attacks can be classed as migraine. It's just that they're a bit milder. So some people who are getting migraine attacks don't realize they've got migraine because they don't get it very badly. There is another term which I really don't like, which is cluster migraine. So some people come and say to me, oh, I've been told I've got cluster migraine. And that's a confusing term because it mixes up two different headache types.
Clearly, migraines are complex, like you said. And I feel like there's little understanding or even support for people who are living with migraine. If you could change one thing to fix this, what would you change in the world?
I think it would have to be a better understanding of the impact of migraine in society. If we could just somehow wave a big enough flag that made people go, oh, wow, we really need to take this seriously, then I think from then we would get all the good results that we need, which is more research, more funding, more neurological headache specialist clinics set up, more support and understanding at work, more support and understanding from family and friends, because, you know, sometimes family and friends can be sort of, oh no, I've got another headache again, and not really understanding. So I think it's about raising that awareness of the impact of the condition. There was a survey in 2016, which was done by the World Health Organization, and it was showing the burden of disease globally, and migraine came second in the most disabling condition list, second only to dementia. So, you know, people with chronic migraine, especially when they're getting it more than 15 days in a month, really have such high impact. So we need to do all we can to raise awareness so that we can get things better for them. There are some good treatments now. There's some really good things out there to help people with migraine. But if the awareness isn't there, the understanding and the support isn't there, then they really struggle.
What are some things that you would advise to anyone who's living with migraine?
Find out as much as you can about it. And this is why we do our own podcast called Heads Up Podcast from the National Migraine Centre, which we thought would be a very good way of giving information that we're giving out week after week after week to patients, and to sort of making it easily accessible. So people, even if they're feeling a bit fragile, they can just pop on a pair of headphones and have a listen in. And then, of course, the book that I've recently launched called Managing Your Migraine. And there are lots of other resources in the back of that book. They're exploring more about all the ways that you can help yourself. So I think finding out about what migraine is and understanding how this condition is generated in your brain really helps people to kind of help themselves, but also to seek the right help when that's necessary, you know, because you can't do it all yourself. There's no way. You know, if you're getting bad migraine attacks, it's not a question of just reading a book and eating differently or sleeping differently. You do need to have helpful medication, doctors that understand. But the more that you understand your own condition, you become an expert yourself in your own condition. And I think the more you can go and ask the right questions and request the right sort of help and support.
What would you say to the partners or family members of migraineurs?
Find out about migraine. Listen to your partner or the person in your life who's got migraine and understand what an impact it is. I think some people who get migraine call themselves migraine warriors, because I think people with migraine have a tendency to push on through the pain, to try and keep going. If the people around them are judging them or criticizing them or not being supportive, they may push on too far and make things worse. They may feel guilty. The person with migraine often feels a bit of a burden or a nuisance. They feel they let people down. And the more that the supporting migraine team can be saying, we understand, it's not your fault. We're here for you. If you need to lie down in a dark room, fine. If you need your medication, that's fine. We understand that it's unpredictable, and we understand that you need to do what you have to do to get through this attack. That will be really, really helpful.
Are there any top migraine books or resources that you would recommend?
I particularly recommend, which are the Heads Up podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify and all the normal podcast places. And then my book, Managing Your Migraine, which is available on all the book sites. The Vestibular Migraine by Dr. Shin Bei. Dr. Sabrina Brennan wrote a book called Beating Brain Fog. Dr. Louise Newson has just published a book in the same series as mine called Preparing for the Perimenopause and the Menopause. The National Migraine Centre has fact sheets as well. And then the Migraine Trust is another really excellent charity.
If you could share one interesting finding or experience from your years of working in migraines, what would you tell us?
I would say that people with migraine often have not been given good information about basic things that they can do to help themselves, and underestimate how important the things they can do themselves can be. Eating regularly, having a routine of sleep, trying to do as much as you can to control stress, to control your hormone fluctuations, looking into supplements like magnesium or vitamin B2 or coenzyme Q10. And recently we've heard that vitamin D and omega-3 can be quite helpful to reduce migraine attacks. Realizing that all of that is as important as getting another medication. Quite often I'm talking to people and they say, well, I don't really want another medication. I don't want to keep taking tablets. I'd rather do something myself. So also understanding that there are things like neuromodulation devices, which there are various different ways that these work, but they're either electrical or magnetic devices that can help soothe the brain waves down a bit and stop the pain and reduce the migraine attacks. So looking into other things and not just relying on medications, that's probably the biggest lesson, I think.
Thank you so much, Katy, for answering all my questions.